Hi, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today I have the Cary Moss. And I talked about Cary in the introduction. And Cary is, just as a reminder, just a brilliant, very successful lawyer. But she's done something that other people would think is certifiably insane, which makes practicing for her even harder. And I'll ask questions and you can hear the story and we'll talk about the story. And you can really appreciate the challenges and obstacles that she's overcome to build a first-class law firm, a fantastic team, and also be able to balance her life. So, Cary, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Steve. As always, great to see you.
It's great to see you. It wasn't always great to see me, but now it's great to see me, which I like.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rocky start, you and I, but we got through it. So
we got through it. We got through it.
There's lots of good stories there.
That's a good story just unto itself. So let's talk a little bit about your story, though. So let's talk about your story and your mom's story, the launch of your firm, Sawyer and Sawyer. So let's go back to the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So how did it happen? How did this start?
So my parents, and I will refer to them as my parents, my mom and my stepfather raised me as well. Been in my life for a very long time, but he was a radiation oncologist and my mom was a medical physicist. So two kind of dumb people, right? They got this crazy idea to transition when I was in college to go to law school, leave the medical practice behind, go to law school together. So, all I said to them was, I was at the University of Florida at the time in undergrad, and I said, if you go to law school, please don't come here. Myself. Because I left home to go to college and I wasn't really wanting my parents to follow me. Anyway, they ended up going to Stetson in St. Petersburg, so there was still a little bit of a distance. And they graduated and really didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't want to work for somebody else because they had always worked for themselves. And so I had the opportunity to go to law school when I graduated from Florida. They offered that and I love school, so why not? So I went to law school at Stetson as well. And about 10 months before I graduated from law school, my mom opened a tiny little office in a retirement community here in Orlando. My dad said, I'm going to work out of the house. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't want to be in the office. So you and your mom kind of have fun. So I joined them that 10 months later after I came home and passed the bar. And mom had hired a receptionist / paralegal who is still in my life today and kind of like a pseudo grandmother to my kids. And it was just the three of us for a long time. And my mom being a workaholic, and apparently I got her work ethic to some regard. And so the two of us would work Saturdays and Sundays and all week and try to learn as much as we could, and really didn't know much. And but really kind of just hung in there together and slowly started making progress. And ultimately, had the two offices and kind of went from there. So although my dad, was the name was on the door, so to speak, and he's a owner, but he really wanted to do his own thing and kind of more towards the medical side of it, doing incapacity exams for the court and so forth. So it was a nice time for my mom and I. It was just the two of us. It was, before I had kids. And we spent a lot of time together. And that bond that was not only just a mother-daughter, but it was a partner, and it was, having each other's back and working hard to make it happen for us. And one of the things I know my mom had always said to me was she always wanted me to be in the position to choose my own path and support my own self and make my career path what it is to support my life in the way that I would never have to depend on anybody else. So that's kind of where it all started.
But one of the things that you did really well that I respected is that you created some boundaries as far as time.
Yes.
And so my recollection, it was either Fridays, all of Fridays, or at least Friday afternoons that you dedicated to the boys. So talk about that a little bit more and what your thinking was and how that played out.
What a fun time. My boys are now 19 and 17, but back when they were younger, I had Fridays were my mommy day. And that mommy day would include me taking them to, I'm here in the theme park capital. So I would take them, whether it was to SeaWorld or, all the different places that we have here in Orlando. Meet up with friends. I'd take them to the library for reading time. We'd go to the science center a ton because we lived right down the street. But one of my fondest memories is that my grandmother, my father's mother, Mimi, was a spunky 90-year-old. And she was very partial to boys. She had 3 sons herself, my dad being the oldest. And so Fridays, I would take my boys over there.
Oh, wow.
If, we might go to the science center, but we'd end up at her house maybe, late morning or right around lunchtime, probably right around lunchtime because she always made us lunch. And she would get down on the floor with them and play with them. And so for years, I would do a lot of that and take the boys over there and then meet up with my sister and her 2 boys. And it was a really good, solid memories for me. And from my grandmother to experience that before she passed, and my boys, I mean, they still remember that. It was a really, really fun time, but that was what I carved out to actually spend some time with them during the week before they were in school. Great memories.
But if you were to say, look, you got kids college age or under, what would be 3 strategies that you'd recommend to them to have more time with their family? You kind of rattled off a couple, but say if I could do it over again, and as I look back, what were 3 strategies that work from either a time management perspective, a boundary perspective, organizational perspective? What worked?
What worked first and foremost is being intentional about my day, right? So I have, certain time blocked off on my day to accomplish certain things. And I live by that because it keeps me focused. It allows me to get out of here at a certain time. So I would say first and foremost is mapping out my day and being intentional about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that's a big one right there that a lot of lawyers go right by. And so you intentionally, proactively would plan the day and be intentional about it. So you came in with a game plan, knew what the day was going to look like, and you stayed with it. And then you had a time to go home. Like, this is when I'm going home. I'm walking out the door here. That's really important because a lot of lawyers come in and they're reactive, they're sloppy. They go to the emails, they look for the next client fire. They're not organized or focused or intentional about their day. So one of the things that you really do bring is a high level of focus and intensity. When people know you, don't know you that well. They don't see that intentionality, that focus. So that's a fantastic one. What's number 2?
Hard. I mean, that's definitely something that you have to really work on day in and day out. I mean, I see the success of it, but it's so easy to get sucked back in to not doing it sometimes. And when that's happened for me, it gets very chaotic. And so it's just, it's almost like that muscle that you have to keep exercising to make sure that happens.
Well, it's totally a muscle. It's totally a muscle. So yeah. The ability to be focused on what you want and play for what you want daily requires a practice, and it requires a muscle, and it requires energy. It requires a why to do it. It's so much easier not to be intentional and responsible for your day. So what you're saying is a big deal. And anyone listening to this podcast, hopefully, if you're already intentional and focused about your day, kick it up a notch, see if you can do just a little bit more focus and intentionality about it.
Right.
Those of you who aren't, what Cary's talking about is a whole level of literally planning your day, not by walking and seeing what your calendar says on Outlook, but handwriting, looking what the top 3 things are, getting yourself clear about this will be a great day for me. So it's a big deal, Cary. It's a big deal. And it's not easily done. It is a muscle. You develop it. It's a practice. It
took me a long time to really put that in play and be consistent with it. So number 2 would probably be the absolute critical importance to build a rock solid team around you.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
couldn't do an ounce of the stuff I do without having the people around me that I have. And what I mean by that is it transcends across the business, right? It's all about one is being able to delegate to these, people that are very capable, and they have similar values that I do, and they want to do a good job, and so they can take so much off my plate. Those that can drive the projects, stuff that I tried to do that I didn't have time to do, that would just fill up my day and I would be spinning my wheels. So having a really great, dependable, loyal, competent, nice team allows me to do all of the other things that I like to do, that I want to do. So I can leave the office if I want to leave today and, go work out, and I want to leave at 4 o'clock, or I want to come in. I mean, last Wednesday, I took the day off and went to the Ritz Spa with a friend of mine. I could never have done that had I not had the supportive team that I have. And they want me to do that. They're happy when I'm gone. I mean, they can do so much more without me here than when I'm here. And so to have those kind of people, they've all said they want to listen to this. So I'm not saying it just because they're going to be listening to it. But no, honestly, they are incredible people. Some of them have been with me for 17, 18, 19. Actually, one's been with me for over 20 years. And so, they give me the ability to do what I want to do, both from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint.
Yeah. And this is important though, but in developing a rock star team, and how many team members do you have right now? 14?
Yeah, we just hired like 3 since the beginning of the year. So my head's a little bit spinning, but yeah.
Yeah, before. So let's talk about that, just because this is a shift as well for a lot of lawyers. So, but you started training your team, the team that you had, the bedrock of your training, I think started maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You think
Yeah.
about it, because you started doing team training,
Mm-hmm.
you started doing meetings, you
Mm-hmm.
started doing one-on-ones, you started your scorecarding process, which we could do a whole podcast around. You
Right.
started the groundwork, the spinal column for the firm's culture maybe 10 years ago, just by being intentional about what you wanted with your team. So this is important. I mean, it's kind of like the intentionality that you bring in your day planning. A lot of lawyers hear you say this, but they don't understand the work that you did to make this team.